Management, Regional Water Management Group. That's a mouthful. Uma, could you give us a roll call, please?
Sherry Thrall,
Here.
Paul Rowan, Jeff Engel, Doug Teeter, Russell Reed,
Here.
Rick Roberti,
Here.
and Jim Roberti. Trina Cunningham, here. Roger Diefendorf,
Here.
Jeff Greening, Joe Hoffman,
Acting for Joe Hunt.
Good.
Kurt Sable.
Kurt Seaver. Carol Thornton, Quentin Youngblood. We do have a forum.
So you can sit up here.
Nobody else shows up, I guess.
Are there any additions or deletions from the agenda? Hearing none, that brings us to public comment opportunity. This is an opportunity for members of the public to comment on any item that is not on the agenda, but under the purview of the group. And if you have one that is a comment on an agendized item, please give me some indication if you wish to speak, and I'll call on you when we call that agenda item. So is there anyone that wishes to public comment? Oh, boy. Announcements and reports. Let's see. There's an opportunity to meet Sierra Nevada Conservancy's new executive officer. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Sure. Lynn Campbell with the Sierra Nevada Conservancy wanted me to pass on that on May 8th, there's an opportunity here in Quincy. Actually, I think it's in this room to meet the new executive officer from 3 to 5 on May 8th.
Okay, consent agenda. These items are expected to be routine and non-controversial, and we'll act on them all at one time. Is there any item on the consent agenda anyone wishes to have withdrawn for discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, that takes us to the action agenda. Integrated Regional Water Management Roundtable of Regions. You guys have been working with that group.
Yes, thank you. So the Roundtable of Regions is a group of the IRWM regions across the state. The Upper Feather River has participated in that Roundtable of Regions for the last couple of years. They are an all-volunteer forum. They have been to date. Their two efforts are promoting the philosophy of IRWM, which is integrated regional water management, and also equipping those engaged in the work with tools and partnerships necessary for success. And they've been getting involved somewhat in legislative items and working with DWR and the state water plan. And they recently, at the end of last year, they released a request for proposals to solicit a network coordinator to kind of further their efforts along. The Sierra Water Work Group was selected for that position. So they have a budget not to exceed $75,000 a year at this point. I think it's a one-year contract with options for renewal at the end. And their scope of services is split into two areas. One is to administer the roundtable, so keep the quarterly meetings going, and they have a number of breakout committees that making sure that everything is in. And then also area 2 is our special projects, so we'll be coordinating with DWR on urban-related issues, as well as putting together a summit, which I believe will probably be similar to or the same as the Sierra Water Workers Summit that Liz is putting on every year. And they'll also be doing surveys and reports based out to all of our WIMs using that AMP water plan update. So the funding for that has been voluntary contributions from member IRWMs, and they did get commitment from the last Irwin to fund this. And I think the SACA stands for Santa Ana Watershed Authority. I think
Yes,
that's right.
Santa Ana Watershed Project.
Oh, that's authority. And they're the ones that are hold the contract with Sierra Water Work Group. So the information went out to all the Irwins, and then also provided an opportunity for Irwins to contribute to that network coordinator position if they wish. So this item is informational and to gauge any interest in contributing at this time, or maybe keep it in mind for future years.
Anytime we're looking at spending money that we don't have, I guess the first question that comes to my mind is, do you really see real benefit from supporting this going forward? And how much are we talking about? Split?
It's a voluntary thing, so I think that it is up to the Irwin leaders to determine what they would like to contribute. I think the Irwin regions that have a more robust funding source are providing more money. I haven't seen that big breakdown of what it is. They have been really active at the state level and with UWR, and I've been doing an Irwin stakeholder report every couple of years, and that's been really beneficial. And it does, I'll let Leah speak to this a little bit more, but it sounds like the new governor is supportive of Irwin. So there is, I think there is a benefit in supporting the Irwin regions. We can still participate without providing, submitting funding.
Leah, you want to add to this? I know there's a phone call on Monday.
Yeah, I don't know much more than that. And the governor has said that as he's getting ready to release one of the tunnels, he's saying that he wants to see a portfolio approach to water in the different regions, that everybody uses their assets, that regions would be more fair and equitable in their water solutions than what we've got with the big water going south. So that was always, the portfolio approach was always sort of the same word as IRWM. And so he hasn't come out and said, IRWM's the answer, but he's leading in that direction. And the great thing about Liz moving into that position is Liz used to be a legislative analyst and work inside the legislative halls. So when it comes down to getting more money for our region, the Sierra Nevada, I think she's the right person for that job. That's what she loves more than anything, that kind of work. So, and we didn't do very well, as we all know, with the IRWM funding and the disadvantaged community funding in our region. So I'm hoping with her leadership down there, it'll change a bit. But that's all I've got, really.
So,
Do we give to this, did you say that, have we given any money before for this?
No.
Is this the first time that they asked us?
It is, because this is the first time they've funded a position. It's been an all-volunteer group before. This is the first
I
time.
got you, so the funding, any funding is being rounded up to pay for the position, or help pay for the position.
And there's no requirement for contribution at this time. They do have the funding
Yeah.
for this year. And we do have some DWR staff here. Not to put them on the spot, but if they wanted to chime in on any of these discussions.
Actually, I would like to chime in because I went to the California water plant and I spoke to a lady from Santa Ana, and I didn't know about the roundtable of regions. And it was so helpful. It seems like it's all, it doesn't work with the DWR directly, it works all internally with all stakeholders, IRWM groups. They work, they collaborate, and they work together as an effort and a team effort. And luckily it was funded previously by probably the richer communities. But it seemed like it was very helpful getting information to other IRWM areas and statewide, and not with DWR intervention. It's all volunteer, and it's all local groups that get together, and it was really helpful listening to what they had to say.
great, thank you for that. Any other discussion? Well, I tend to think that we should try to support this. But I also know that right now, the funding that would go towards supporting it is going to have to come from 3 counties. And those 3 counties are in their budget process right now. So this type of funding would have to be somehow or another built into a contribution from each of the counties toward that fund in their budget. So I guess my recommendation would be that we agendize this for a final decision on contribution at our next meeting, which then gives the counties involved time to figure out how they're gonna pay for it. I guess is the simple way to put it. But,
I would also add just a suggested amount, because the Mountain County funding area is the least funded IRWM in the state. And so to look at how, how we would break that down and what would be equitable to us in line with that.
well, and we have the additional situation, as the same as what we've been looking at for support of this effort between the 3 counties of, even within our own IRWM, the 3 counties are not equal in area that's involved in IRWM. So we would also need to be looking at a suggestion of how much money we wish to try to extract from each county.
So a formula based on, say,
Maybe
top line
even-
allocation, the last, and then,
Or the same, could be the same formula that we've used to figure out the basic contribution. But I would think UMA could come up between now and that meeting with a recommendation on that.
I can reach out to the roundtable and, see what their numbers are and then come up with some ideas.
Yeah, because we don't know if we're talking about, well, I'd like to say $500, but $5,000 or, where do we fall in that 70 bonus? So that would be helpful too.
Okay.
So anybody have an objection to tabling this until budget's kind of more formulated? Thanks for your And since you just walked in, for those of you who don't know him, our new county administrator, Gabriel, just joined us. So welcome.
Thank you.
Is he mean? I just want my backs to him.
He can be.
I just introduced yourself to him, yeah.
He could be like a junkyard dog.
Just ask him, just ask him.
Okay, that takes us to item 3, Disadvantaged Community and Tribal Involvement Project. 2. Yeah. Department of Water Resources Climate Action Plan.
So we do have some DWI staff who just had a few words they wanted to say about their climate action plan.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
I'll introduce myself. Lots of new faces today. I'm Peter Coombe. I work for DWR in Red Bluff, and I've worked there since 2003. And beginning of my career, I did a lot of work in the Upper Feather River Lakes and stuff doing water quality samples. So it's good to be back in this area. So today I could give a handout here. I'd like to talk about our climate change program and our climate action plan that we
Somebody else make it better on.
So at DWR, we've been thinking about climate change for a long time now. First started with our chief hydrologist, Maury Rubes. He's a retired annuitant now, and I work with him a lot. But back in the 80s, he saw some trends in the percent of April through July runoff from the Sacramento River and San Joaquin River systems. So we saw that there's a trend of decreasing percentage of flow during those months. So what we think that's attributed to is a loss of snowpack. So there's lots of indicators showing us that in the measured data that we're seeing some changes. So that's kind of where the climate change program started in UFR, but now we have a staff of 12. We have full-time scientists like myself, engineers and support staff, and we have been working on our climate action plan. So our climate action plan has 3 parts, and there is a first part is it addresses how UFR accounts for its greenhouse gas emissions and looking at reducing those emissions as part of AB 32 bill that Governor Schwarzenegger signed back when he was governor. We have to reduce our emissions so much by a baseline number, which was 1990. So by 2020, we were required to reduce our total GHG emissions by 50%. So we have already met that goal by reducing our emissions by 50%. And a big part is that back in the 70s, I think we had UFR invested in a coal-fired power plant down by Las Vegas. So we divested in that and getting our electricity from other sources. So that was a big part of it. But by 2050, we are looking at decreasing our emissions by 90% from 1990 levels. So making big strides in reducing our emissions, and that was a big part of our climate action plan, the phase 1. And phase 2 is a framework for guidance for climate change impacts in our internal projects and how we deal with that, and looking towards the future to see how projects will handle maybe different hydrology or higher temperatures. And the handout I handed out is phase 3, which is our vulnerability assessment, and we've been working on this for a few years now. It's taken us a little bit longer, as we know, has like the Orville incident, took some resources away. So we finally are getting it out in the middle of this month, so it'll be available on our webpage to read through our vulnerability assessment. And we looked at hazards and vulnerabilities to our infrastructure and operations. So you can see we list all the hazards down here on the left-hand side. So we looked at wildfire, extreme heat, sea level rise, ecosystems, short-term hydrologic events, and long-term hydrologic events. So what we found is that not a lot of our facilities for wildfire, for instance, not really that vulnerable to increased wildfire risk. There's a lot of like concrete dams and structures like that. But one thing that we are starting to focus on is the headwaters of the State Water Project up here. So we've used a statewide study where they looked at incidence increase in wildfire, and even by like 2050 mid-century, it's looking like there's going to be a higher probability risk of more wildfire in this area. So that would be something that we would like to focus on. Also, with that long-term hydrologic changes, so we looked at how the State Water Project delivery and storage performance, how it handles warming climate, and we found that there's a high likelihood of significant reductions in the State Water Project deliveries. So that's based on just the changing snowpacks, when the water comes into the reservoirs and how we manage all that. And we did some pretty new modeling with the University of Massachusetts, and they helped us do some decision scaling work, which we did create these response surfaces so you can look at a wide range of features and how your system performs to those different potential futures. So maybe that could be a presentation in the future I could bring along as for our proposal assessments published. And what we're gonna do next, after the Boinville assessment, is our adaptation plan. And that's kind of why I'm here today. I'm interested in what's going on in the watershed and with the IRWM. And we really want to do inventory of all the projects that are going on, what Forest Service is doing with forest management, what the RCDs are doing. So before we're just kind of building this adaptation plan, so we'd like to do outreach to this group and everybody in the community and see what, see how we can help out and include that in our adaptation plan for the Upper Feather watershed.
Is that going to be a future outreach?
Yeah, they have asked me to spend the next couple months doing outreach up here, so hopefully talk to all of you in person or and just get inventory of what's going on so we can help out as much as we can.
So you're going to be working with PG&E because of their facilities on the North Fork?
Potentially, yeah. I worked with, I think Gary Freeman's retired now, but I worked with him quite a bit in the past. But definitely, if they're willing to work with us, we'd be interested in that, sure.
Where does PWR get all their information to put this down?
For information for
Yeah, where do you, I mean, where do
Oh.
you get your specific?
for our vulnerability assessment.
Yeah.
So, say a wildfire, we use some academic literature. For the short-term hydrologic events, we use the Central Valley Flood Control Plan report and just different data sources, sea level rise. There is the guidance on sea level rise for California. So a bunch of different sources, I guess.
I mean, whenever something gets as big as climate change,
Mm-hmm.
it's very political,
Oh, yeah.
and it gets to where there's money to be made for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And to say that I'm very skeptical would be an understatement. As a livestock producer, we've seen data come out that throws livestock into a double-digit percentage of causing problems. But UC Davis has come out with reports where it's only 4%, maybe. But no one uses the 4%. Everybody uses the 12 or 14%, making me skeptical that if we're going to just use those numbers,
Right.
it's skewed. You said that in the 1980s that we noticed runoff started changing.
Yeah, the trend
Still,
started, yeah.
But in our watershed where we are in the Chilkoot area, which is under a reservoir, it doesn't matter what year we have, we're getting less precipitation into the reservoir, not because of not the same amount of snow or water, but because the vegetation is so thick that it can't get to the reservoir. So I don't know how I guess my question is, how do you say that's climate change? If it's not climate change, it's a climate because there's too many things sucking up water that used to run down the stream.
There could be other factors like evapotranspiration from a dense forest. So yeah, that's another question we'd like to answer. So
All right.
we like the science-based approach.
Good.
And we just go by the numbers. So that's how we approach things.
All right.
Yeah.